Assalamu alaikum viewers, a very warm welcome to all of you watching Hidayat TV. I'm Haider with another episode of Generation Gap. Viewers, as we all aware, Karachi, one of the most populous city in the world. It comes in the top 10 cities. It's also quoted that if one wants to see all the cultural dynamics of South Asia, one must visit Karachi. It has estimated population of 23 million people in April 2013. Muhajirs, Sindhis, Balochis, Punjabis, Pashtun, Kashmiris, Saraikis, Memons, Bohras and Ismailis, they all live in this country. Very interestingly, in the Second World War, more than 40,000 people from Eastern Europe, they went to take refuge in Karachi, and there are some families who are still residing. Over 19 languages are spoken in this diverse city, main financial hub of Pakistan. One road are known as I Chandriga Road. 53% of the cash flow of Pakistan economy is generated from that road. However, once known as Urusul Balad, the city of lights for its liveliness, has lost its liveliness and is under siege for last 30-35 years. Extortions, kidnapping, killings, sectarian killings, ethnic cleansing, land mafia, you name a criminal activity, and it has blown apart this wonderful city. More than 12,000 people have killed since 2005. And to name a few, just recently, famous educationist Sayyid Asfar Rizvi lost his life. And before that, after the elections, May 11, Zahra Shahid Hussain, another famous social activist, she was gunned down in Karachi as well. There are so many problems in this city, and there are so many people who have left Karachi to protect their own lives and their families. Is there any hope for the future generations, or it will be more chaos and more despair will prevail? So this is our today's topic, and we'll talk to different people from Karachi and see what their point of view is. To start with, we have joined by Dr. Shabi Haider Zaidi, MBBS from Dow Medical College. He has also founded the Department of Medical Education at Dow Medical College, first ever book on medical ethics in Indo-Pak subcontinent, and has been residing in UK for the last almost 8 to 9 years. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Shabi. And sitting next to him is Bilal Ahmed Shah, MBA graduate, hails from Karachi and has been in UK for the last 10 years. And work in the hospitality and hotel management industry, and is also a lecturer. Thank you very much for joining us, Bilal.
Thank you, my pleasure.
And on Google Hangout, we have Usman Hussain, MSc in Political Economy from the School of Oriental and African Study, University of London. He has worked for International Herald Tribune, and now he's working with Dawn. Thank you very much, Usman, for joining us. Can you hear us, Usman? I think we lost connection. So let's start with Dr. Shabi Zaidi. Give us the background about Karachi, please.
Well, Karachi, the word Karachi actually is a corruption of a word called Mai Kolochi.
Okay.
Mai Kolochi was a small village. It was a little more like a collection of hutments in the 18th century. Harbour village where fishermen used to live there, and still there is an area. If you go from Clifton towards Maripur, towards Hawke's Bay, that bridge that's being redeveloped is called Mai Kolachi Bridge. So probably that was the area which was the original hutment of fishermen. But then gradually what happened was, because open seas invited people from all over, the seafarers started coming over there. And when the British went after the fall of Sindh to Charles Napier in the 1850s, and Mees lost the battle at Miani, Karachi became a very important trading place. From Bombay to South Africa, ships used to come over there and started expanding. So it's a beautiful city. It's been there for a long, long time, but in the last 50 to 100 years, it really expanded enormously. And one of the major reasons is that it's got huge open seas which welcome everybody. But just go a little bit back, from our point of view, from the religious, that is faith-related things, The first ever migrants who came to Sindh from the Arab world were the people actually who are the followers of Imam Sayyid Sajjad Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. In fact, even today in Karachi, there is the famous Muslim Abdullah Shah Ghazi. His name is Abdullah al-Ashtar, who is a grandson of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain, both. His father was his grandfather was Abdullah al-Mahes, and great-grandfather was Hassan al-Musanna. They came because they were hiding from Hajjaj bin Yusuf and all these people, the terrorists over there. And if you go back in the history even further, there was a particular clan from Punjab who settled down in Karbala or nearby, not Karbala but Nineveh. There was a man called Harab Dutt, great ancestor of the famous Indian actor Sunil Dutt.
Okay.
In fact, he and his 7 sons fought with Imam Hussain in Karbala.
Yeah, that's a very famous story about the Punjabis.
So that close association between Hind and the Arab world. Sindh became important, particularly from the point of view of Janabi Sayyid Sajjad and immigrants who came over here and started settling down. But when the things started expanding gradually, especially after the creation of Pakistan, because it was a capital, it was also an industrial hub, it was also the main source of income, like you just mentioned, it gained importance, and a lot of political rivalries and vested interests, they started developing, and we'll continue to talk about it as we proceed in discussion.
All right. I think we're joined by Farha Lodi now on Google Hangout. Assalamu alaikum, Farha. Thank you very much for joining us. Farha is head of social media Insaf Student Federation of Karachi, and also writes and heads the Insaf Writers Group. Usman, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much, both. Okay, Bilal, you tell us. You've been in UK for the last 10 years. So what's the difference you see, the time you left Pakistan and the time if you go now?
Well, when I came into this country, I had done my GCSE, so as you would say, the high school. So we finished the sixth form. I came down here, that was in 2004. Since then, things have changed a lot back in Pakistan. When we were in school, we had, like you just mentioned, there are people from so many ethnical backgrounds, even religious backgrounds, who live and used to study, work in Karachi because it's such a multicultural city. I remember we used to have students who were Christians, we had Hindus studying with us. We never saw any difference.
But things have changed.
Yes, definitely. The tolerance was there. We never differentiated between them. We used to sit together, play, eat, and you used to see that within the local community, in the society as well, which unfortunately now has changed. You do see that the tolerance level has gone down. People have started talking about, oh, this is a different religious sect, this person comes from here. Even within a same religion, if you want to call, like, let's say, Islam, different sects have come down and people have started segregating themselves.
So there's no tolerance there?
No.
Okay, Usman, do you agree there's no tolerance left in Karachi? I mean, we know all across Pakistan it is the case, but you've been writing in Dawn and International Herald Tribune as well. So what is your view on that?
Well, I agree with Bilal to a certain extent. When I was a school student, and I was blessed to have several Hindu, Parsi, and Christian classmates, and I agree with him that we never thought twice about asking them any questions about their religious affiliations, or it wasn't any concern for us at all. I mean, I'm proud to say they're still my friends. Unfortunately, hardly any of them live in Pakistan anymore due to the mounting social pressures. I wouldn't say I would still hold on to the hope that you see, the issue of this religion has become increasingly polarized in not only Karachi but Pakistan. So children are much more sensitive and much more aware of these issues. So whether they may or may not discriminate, they are certainly aware that their classmate or their friend or somebody they meet in school or wherever might be a Shia, might be a Hindu, and most unfortunately might be an Ahmadi. Okay, growing up, I didn't even know the distinction between an Ahmadi and a Sunni and a Shia. But I think if you interact with children from their GCSE, doing their GCSEs these days, they will be acutely aware of the differences between these particular sects. So while I would say in the more elite areas of Karachi and generally Pakistan, the discrimination, I don't think there will be discrimination, but it permeates down to the middle and lower middle classes for sure. And throughout the past few years when I've been covering stories, I have noticed several incidents which talk about the same trend.
Okay.
I'd be happy to.
All right. Sir, do you think there is element of fear in?
Oh, definitely. Goes without saying. I think people are living in constant fear. And it's just not the fear of the property or the valuables or whatever. It is the fear of living from day to day. People can't get out. They can't go out to functions, meetings. When they enter their houses, they use the mobile phones to tell the staff, they open the gates, the car is coming in, etc. I mean, it's a constant battle for survival. It is like living in a forest.
Okay.
People are chasing each other, and obviously there's
but there is another narrative that when you have a population of 20 million people, these incidents will happen. But why there's so much highlight by the media? And I mean, what is your understanding?
Well, there are hundreds of cities which have huge populations but don't have the same problems. I'm sure like cities like Bombay, for example,
Yes.
or Calcutta, which even more, or Bangkok or Hong Kong. No, it's not that. It's just that Karachi has become the hot point for all the political rivalries. People have got interest in all kinds of financial rewards and gains and things, ransom for kidnapping, ransom for this, that, and the other. Hundreds of problems. You can't really. It's not easy to palpate the pulse of Karachi at the moment. There are lots of things that are happening.
And I assume, I mean, you left Karachi because of one of those reasons.
One of the main reasons, yes.
Okay, all right. Bilal, what do you think? I mean, what can be done to normalize things in Karachi?
Well, personally, if you ask for my personal opinion, then I would say whatever the incident or the cleansing of these mafias, I'm not going to specifically talk about a political group, but what happened in 1992, which was carried out by the Rangers, the cleansing and the army. You can the Rangers or the army. That is exactly what is needed now in Karachi at the moment. In 1992, when they went in, they actually cleaned out the mafia gangs. You want to?
Yes, I understand. But do you think, I mean, that's the only solution left now, or is there any negotiations that you can do, or you can?
Personally, if you ask me, Karachi has gone out of hands. Whichever political group you want to call it, the religious groups, the political groups, the government, the forces, the army, the Rangers, whichever, Karachi has gone out of hands because it has grown so massively that you can actually say that there are 4 or 5 different cities within a city district.
And they have also barricaded the areas. For Pathans, it's a different area. And
precisely, and they have provincially, there are different provinces, like I was just saying, that they've been, Pathans have got their own different areas, Mahajis have got their own 9-0, other cities, other provincial people have got their others, and this is what's happening within Karachi at the moment.
Okay.
The only solution, a fast solution if you need before things get even worse, is that you need an exact same operation that took place in 1992.
Okay, all right. Farah, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, Farah, Bilal is just telling that there is only solution, one solution which is left is there should be a military operation. I mean, do you agree with this narrative? Or?
Okay, I must say that Bilal is right to some extent. It's because, like he particularly mentioned, the ethnic riots between Mahajars and Pathans. As being a medical student, I have witnessed many incidents when Pathan Mahdi riots were on the peak. That I have seen some people who were appointed on political affiliation in the hospital. They avoid Pathan's patients and they say that, don't look at that, don't look at them, they are our enemies. And I just
in the medical profession this is happening as well, that people have been treated on the basis of ethnicity and faith background.
It was like a shock for me because I have never expected that an educated person will behave like that, because it is education that creates difference between us.
Okay. Usman, do you agree?
Look, I do not agree with Bilal that the military operation is the only solution for Karachi's problems. The circumstances in 1992 were very different to the circumstances that we face currently in Karachi. In 1992, the operation was targeted specifically against one specific ethnic group, and I think we all know who that was, headed by the All Pakistan Muhajir Students Organization, and it was targeted specifically against the MQM and their supporters and leaders. Current day Karachi is, a much wider ethnic mix. There are several influential political parties operating in Karachi, all with their armed wings. Not only with their armed wings, but with their student wings. And if you have an operation in Karachi, who are you going to target? Because you cannot simply blame the Muhajirs or their representatives for all of Karachi's ills these days. If you talk about the land mafia, if you talk about violence, extortion, land grabbing, other crime, then I think it's every political party that is currently engaged
Yes,
in it.
it's also
So
been noted by the Supreme Court of Pakistan that every political party, even Jamaat-e-Islami, they have their own militant wings.
yeah, so you see, in 1992 it was against one, and if you do it one in 2013, it will be against five or six. Do you want the whole of Karachi to go up in flames? And the repercussions of such an act will reverberate for many years to come, and it will significantly alter the political and social dynamics of the city. I don't think such a solution. I don't think this is a solution, to be honest. There will be gang warfare, violence, death, destruction.
So
what
what is your view? What do you think? What can be done nowadays? I mean, we have tried everything.
Okay. Well, to be honest, we haven't tried everything. You see, Karachi, as you earlier pointed out when you were giving your synopsis of the city, Karachi represents around 70% of Pakistan's revenues. Okay, and it is a gold mine. Okay, simply put, anybody, any party, any group, any ethnic, any affiliation which has a control over Karachi has control over its resources. So unless and until you curb in the armed wings of these parties, which is something that the Imran Khan had constantly been stressing upon while campaigning the last elections, you are not going to get any respite. And I think the Karachiites themselves are quite fed up of the incessant violence, uncertainty, strikes, tension. And I don't know how many of you were present on the ground when the elections in Karachi were happening, but there was massive rigging, massive irregularities, and the outcome was pretty clear that the citizens of Karachi wanted to change, and for them the best change was through the ballot box. Now, I'm not saying that is the ideal way to instigate like short-term change, but it just shows that the citizens are frustrated. They don't want this violence and uncertainty in their city anymore. As an apolitical person for the last so many years, I voted for the first time.
Okay.
And I stood in line for 5 hours to vote. And for me, violence is not the answer for violence. You see, there has to be a mediated
I mean,
solution.
you're saying that you stood in line for 5 hours, and there are also the constituencies in Karachi where 175,000 votes were given to one political party. I mean, then what is exactly happening?
Yeah.
Can I include?
You see,
Yes,
that's the thing.
Farah, if you can,
Yeah.
because you're representing PTI here.
No, let me tell you.
Okay.
You dropped her again. Okay,
I think
please.
I'll agree with Usman that force or any military action is not the answer. Any action that's there, which is aggressive, will produce a reaction which will definitely worth more than the initial action.
But this is the same counter argument Taliban
No, I think
apologetics have.
That is true. Whatever. Taliban is a different phenomenon altogether. I think the whole thing is it's a gain of political whims and fantasies and rights and mafias and what have you. I think negotiation is the answer. And political, I mean, you've got the example of Ireland in front of you. I don't think you recall in the 60s and 70s there was a lot of violence, And the British Army tried their best, but they couldn't. They had to come to the table. I think throughout the world, wherever there have been violence of that nature, the best answer is negotiations.
But who will set the priorities? I mean, this is ANP got a total different set of priorities. MKM is representing Karachi and they don't want to get it away. I mean, don't want to give it away to any other political party. So they do have some total different priorities. They've been together in the coalition in the last 5 years, and the more killings in the last 5 to 6 years it has produced.
Well, I don't think I'm here to defend any party, but the fact is that there have been equal number of killings everywhere. You can't possibly pinpoint to one particular group or the other. The point I'm trying to make is that negotiations with these people is possible. It's a different matter altogether with Taliban, because Taliban, they're ignorant lot. They're uneducated, uncouth, uncivilized. They're cavemen. These people are intelligent people. One can talk to them, one can negotiate them, and I think the answer is political. Force is not the answer in Karachi.
Force cannot be.
No, it cannot be the answer.
All right, Bilal, you have to defend your argument now. So
no, fair enough. I do agree with Usman that yes, the atmosphere on the day of election in the areas where people hadn't come out to vote, obviously PTI was the main political party who actually made sure, and this time they actually changed the demographics of Karachi itself. We saw in what happened in NA 250. The prime example I have is my father. He's been living in Karachi for the last 45 years. He never went in for
vote.
Vote. So this was the first time he actually went down. Like Usman said, he was standing for 4 hours in the line, and he made sure that he did voted. He's 70 at the moment. So PTI hasn't basically changed the thinking of people in the younger lot, or you would say the younger generation of Karachi or Pakistan for that matter. It is the elder lot as well. People want change. The atmosphere which was on that day in NA 250 was unbelievable. I was in continuous contact with most of my friends. People were standing for 10 hours. There were other people who were coming in cars with bottles of water. People were coming out, food as well.
We are joined by Raza Rumi from Islamabad now. Raza Rumi, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for joining us. Raza, we are discussing the situation of Karachi. So can you identify the fault lines of Karachi? I mean, what are the fault lines?
Well, Karachi, can you repeat please, because I lost
I said, what are the fault lines? I mean, what issues Karachi face today?
Oh, well, I mean, Karachi is beset with a host of problems. I think there are, if I were to summarize, there are 3 problems, key problems, and they all are related to the weak state capacity that exists, and absence of state building for so many decades in Karachi. I mean, the first is, of course, the well-known problem of criminal gangs which operate across the metropolitan city with impunity. And many of these criminal gangs are now linked to the political parties, and therefore, what has happened is that political parties adopt or patronize these criminal gangs and get their agenda, sorted out through them, which causes violence, which causes reprisal, and then further, I mean, there's a vicious cycle of violence throughout the city. The second one pertains to the existence of militant organizations, such as the Tehreek-e-Taliban-e-Pakistan, which have now increased their role in Karachi and have actually taken over certain areas, in the recent days. And Tehreek-e-Taliban-e-Pakistan is not operating on its own here, because what is happening is that, the Al-Qaeda has found Karachi as a convenient urban hub to undertake covert operations against, the Pakistani state. And finally, if I were to add, is the issue of huge rural to urban migration and the burgeoning population explosion which the state and the municipal services cannot keep up with. So then you have these private gangs also offering services, or what are known as the mafias, the water mafia, the land mafia, and they all 3 are now intersecting in certain parts, and thus causing mayhem in the
Okay, but you know, I mean, it's all leading to a mayhem or more chaos. What are the solutions? What are the practical solutions? We have seen the coalition governments for the last 5 years. They've been sitting in the same government, and ANP, MQM, and PPP, they haven't done. They just keep playing the blame game. And now, obviously, we have seen. I'm not even sure that how long MQM is going to sit in the opposition benches. But do you think it's going to be more chaos in the coming days?
Well, unfortunately, you very rightly said that, I mean, it's not just the last 5 years, but I would add for the last so many decades that we've had this unfortunate neglect of this city. And the solutions, as you said, which are required are that you need to build the institutions of state, which protect people, which enforce law. So first of all, if you look at Karachi, it has the lowest police force
yes, that's
in
right.
the whole country. So, for example, there are only 32,000 police personnel for a city of over 20 million people, or even more.
But there are
And,
18,000
even,
rangers posted as well. There are 18,000 ranger personnel.
Yes, but the issue here is that there needs to be more police in Karachi. I mean, you just cannot do without it. I mean, you have to have more police personnel in the city.
And it's corrupted as well, politically corrupted.
Yeah, and at the same, the prosecution services, the courts, etc.
So what would you propose now? I mean, if you've been given a chance, what is your proposal that what should be done that things can change in Karachi?
Well, I think what needs to be done is across the board neutral recruitment of police personnel. There should be no compromise on that. Similarly, I would propose that basically to strengthen the state institutions and urge the political parties operating in Karachi to give up this policy of patronizing criminal gangs, because that policy is completely self-defeating and leads to huge complications. And it's frankly unacceptable.
And what about
so
what about the third element you mentioned, religious extremism, religious outsprit? Like there are almost 16 or 17 militant organizations which have religious roots. They are operating in Karachi. What can be done because they are all over Pakistan now?
Yeah, but I think the religious extremists in Karachi. Again, why do they operate with impunity? Again, because first of all, the state is very weak, and some would argue that state doesn't want to do anything. I mean, that's another argument. That perhaps it's part of the state plan, but I disagree. I think it's a mix of both. I mean, there is of course the issue of the state policy of patronizing jihad all across Pakistan, which has existed everywhere, including Karachi. But more than that, even if the state were to now crack down on these seminaries and these hubs, it faces an incapacity. I mean, it does not have the required manpower, does not have the required efficiency, and so therefore we are in a situation where major reform and major action is needed to crack down on these different types of extremists operating in the metropolitan.
Thank you very much, Raza Rumi, for giving us time from Islamabad.
Welcome.
Viewers, we'll just take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about religious element and sectarian element towards all this. Thank you very much for joining. Welcome back, viewers. We are talking about Karachi, its problems and solutions, if there are any. So let's move to Usman. Usman, give us a background about the ethnic problems which have started in Karachi.
Okay, well, the problems manifesting in Karachi these days really started to show themselves from the late 70s to the early 80s, when the Urdu-speaking majority of the city started realizing its economic potential and started becoming resentful of the fact that for them, immigrants from other part of the country were coming in and stealing or establishing control over various lucrative sectors of Karachi's economy, including property, transportation, different businesses, and other various aspects. And also, the Muhajir populace felt that they were being ignored in government positions. They never really had any real interest towards military. But for the bureaucracy, the bureaucracy was a very important part of their connection with the state, and they felt that they were being denied opportunities to be part of it. And I'm sure all of you know that the APMSO, the All Pakistan Muhajir Students Organization, founded by Altaf Hussain and Imran Farooq, the late Imran Farooq, and a few other leaders, was started in Karachi University in the early 1980s. And it became quite a popular movement, starting from Karachi University and started spreading out in other colleges, schools of the city, and started getting momentum. And that's when the APMSO became the MQM.
So that was the time when Muhajir population, which migrated from in the subcontinent to Karachi, that was the time they found their voices under this banner of APMSO.
Yeah, exactly. So you see, this is the time I'm talking about. Right now, my time frame is the mid 1980s. Okay, this is when these problems are coming to the forefront, and Karachi is gradually, becoming more. The citizens of Karachi are becoming acutely aware of their ethnic backgrounds. Before the formation of the APMSO, it was more passive and more subtle. People were not acutely aware of this distinction.
But
to the formation of the APMSO.
If correct me, sir, if I'm wrong, that the 1964 Jinnah's election, Fatima Jinnah's election, 64, that was a time when there was some clashes, and then was a Sindhi Urdu moment, clashes in 1972 as well. So,
well, I think Usman is right, but see, you have to go back a little. See, what happened was that in 60s, when Field Marshal General Ayub won the election, his illustrious son took a procession out through Jahangir Road and Lalu Khair and all these old areas. Most of these people were favoring Mother Millat, Muhtarma Fatima Jinnah, including Maulana Maududi, a learned scholar. But the rival forces were stronger. So this all started around that time when Ghaur Ayub took the procession through Lalu Khair and burnt houses and properties and everything, and all those people over there. I mean, I'm not blaming one particular person, it must be the rioters, everybody. And the violence spread out. Then soon after that, hundreds of thousands of Pathans were brought in from northern areas to work in the textiles and the industry developments of Karachi. So like Usman was saying, that it became a question of conflict of interest, because the bread was one and the people who wanted to share were coming from different places. And that kept on. Okay, what happened next is, that's also an important thing. In 1972, when Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, when he became the president and then prime minister, his illustrious brother became the governor of Sindh, Mumtaz Bhutto. And I remember distinctly, I think it was 22nd of June 1972, when when Urdu was declared dead and Sindhi was called to be the national or provincial.
So those were the times
yes,
when they were
and then they burned the house again in Lalu Khair and Jahangir Road and Nazambad, etc. And Rais Amrovi was a very famous poet. I don't think you probably remember him. He wrote a little misra, which is still valuable. I think Jung just took out the whole printout with black hollowed out and everything, just one little misra saying, Urdu ka janaza hai zara dhoom se nikle.
Okay, so that was the time.
That was the first nail that was literally hammered into the coffin of Urdu-speaking people. Then in 1972 onwards, in the domicile form, there always used to be a distinction between the people. I mean, like, for example, I lived in Sindh forever, and I was domiciled in Sindh. Then in 1972, after June, they added one little sentence that was your father born in Sindh or not? Were you a son, are you a son of an immigrant or you're a native?
So this
So
started.
then the jobs, the government, like Usman was saying, the bureaucracy and these higher jobs, then these people who had only one positive factor, that was intellect and education and knowledge that brought from Aligarh or wherever, their children would not get the jobs. And one of the reasons for APMSO was this, that because these children will not get
So
any
the
jobs.
passive voice became
Yes,
active. Okay. All right. Let's bring Farah in. Farah, then let's move on to early 2000 and recently PTI. So you're representing PTI as well. So do you think this is another way to voice your concerns in the form of PTI or?
Okay, being a resident of Karachi, let me be very clear that it's been decades that we have been one nation. Okay, 6 decades ago we decided to become united for a cause, but after 6 decades, our ethnic belongings have divided us. We recognize each other by language and race, and forgot that we all belong to a land called Pakistan. For the particular interest, politicians divide us, and they use ethnic cards. Most of the politicians. There have been Sindhi politicians, there have been Urdu politicians, there have been Punjabi politicians, but no one actually talk about nationalism, because it's nationalism that we need. We do not need ethnicity. We need nationalism. It is the need of that we should understand that everyone who was born here in Pakistan and holds the national identity card of Pakistan, he should be called Pakistani first. We should also be proud of our one identity, Pakistan, because ethnic politics have already caused immeasurable loss to Pakistan, especially Karachi.
Okay.
It is the responsibility of each one of us
So
that we should
it has to be more
nationality, not ethnicity.
So it has to be more holistic
Sorry?
and more nationalized approach. You're saying nationalistic approach that.
Yes, we have to struggle for the national politics, forgetting all the ethnic, racial, or linguistic divisions. We have to become Pakistani first. Then we will decide that who are we,
Okay.
whether we are Muslims or not, whether we are Punjabis or not.
May I ask one question? What is the definition for Pakistani?
You want to answer that? Dr. Shabi is asking what is the definition of Pakistani?
Sorry, I didn't. Sorry.
What is the definition of a Pakistani?
There is no need to define the word Pakistani. There should be a practical for that. We should practice being Pakistani.
So one who is
Like,
born here,
forgetting all the sorry.
the one who is born in Pakistan, they should be called Pakistanis,
One
or
who is born in Pakistan and he holds Pakistan national identity card, he should be called Pakistani.
Okay.
And he
Okay.
should be proud
So-
of that national identity, like I am proud of being Pakistani.
Well, I wasn't born in Pakistan. I migrated from Ajmer, and I bear a Pakistani. I studied and did everything there. Am I a Pakistani or not?
yes, for
Okay.
Yes.
You must be proud of the belonging that you have. Like, I don't know whether your parents are from Pakistan or not. But
No. He said he was born in Ajmer, and then he migrated to Pakistan, and then he has lived all his
Yes.
life in Pakistan.
Then he is more Pakistani than us because he has sacrificed
Well, thank you
the,
so much.
comfort and he migrated for us.
Okay.
I'm deeply honored.
Okay, let's bring in Bilal. Bilal, this new wave of PTI and change, and obviously we've discussed these 3-4 decades that moving on from passive and then getting into APMSO, and then now this change. What do you think? How do you does these things resonate?
Yes, definitely. The change which obviously PTI has brought about was something that Pakistan needed 30 years from now. The elections that used to take place at that time, you never used to see the educated class or the literate class of Pakistan getting out of the doors. For them, it was just a day off from work. And they used to stay at home and that's it. And other people used to come out, and like you would want to call them, the lower class of Pakistan, the uneducated class, which is the majority, which were again,
yes.
we can always argue that they were forced to come out, which do make up about 70 to 75 to 80% of Pakistan's population. Now, since obviously PTI has brought about a change and these people have come out, we have seen the difference in Karachi itself. They did try to go about and use the same old-fashioned ways of rigging. Things didn't work out. You saw what happened with that. There were different kind of dharnas which were taking place. There were different protests in the parts of Karachi and the part of the rest of the country as well. Indeed. What happened in result of that? From one political party, there was a speech which came out. We saw the results of that, the doors of London. Yes, and the 10 Downing Street doors were actually shaken by that. So you can see the difference.
Let's bring in that, Usman. I mean, there was an article in Guardian, Karachi's king over the water. I mean, I really want to understand the functionality of this whole phenomena, that someone is handling the affairs over 4,000 miles away and sitting in office. I mean, does it happen, or does it really? I mean, I'm not from Karachi, but make me understand how these things function.
Oh, it happens. I mean, this is definitely a phenomenon that affects Karachi's daily life, and it's unfortunate that this is the case, but that's what we as citizens of Karachi have to deal with almost on a daily basis, and you see, I think in a large to a large degree, the power dynamics of Karachi are shifting. If you had been on ground in Karachi during election day, you would have noticed that the MQM had lost a lot of their popular support, and it was only through massive irregularities in the electoral process that they were able to win the seats. But they themselves are aware of this fact, and if you've noticed the developments the last 2 weeks. The core MQM committee in Karachi has been disbanded and has been replaced on the directives of Altaf Sen himself. He has issued directives to the effect that any member of his party that is caught doing any sort of corruption or any kind of unethical behavior will be expelled. And not
no disrespect, but do you find these speeches very provocative in being in Karachi? The speeches, the words he used in his last speech, and then saying this, that there will be no land grabbing. So there was something happening. I mean, do you find these things provocative?
Look, even if it doesn't get implemented, the fact that he is saying this and the fact that he is relaying this message shows concern within their ranks. They have to pacify a number of disgruntled supporters that they have in Karachi. And okay, let's look at the situation. Karachi has been solely dominated by MQM for the last 25 to 30 years. Okay, they have had the mandate for Karachi. And yes, to a degree, yes, they have done work for the city. If you see the infrastructure situation 20 years ago to where it is now, there's a world of difference. But have the core issues of the city gone away in terms of the violence, the uncertainty, the day-to-day fear, the economy, the bhatta, the bhatta culture? Many are still skeptical, and because of this want for change, you had a significant change in the dynamics in the last election. And you see, it is my personal belief that Karachi will experience some, a certain degree of change in the coming few years. Because if it doesn't, then there will be a radical upheaval.
Okay, I'll come back to you. I want to bring in Farah now. Farah, 1.9 million votes were given to MQM, 0.6 million to PTI. Obviously, there is some change happening, but how do you see this materializing over the next few years?
Okay, I have been on the streets in the pre-election phase. I have been there doing door-to-door campaign to motivate people to at least come out on the May 11 and cast their vote for change. I didn't say that cast your vote for PTI. I said that do cast your vote because this is your citizen right. Okay, I have been polling agent at the polling station. I was at 7:15 and I saw remarkable change there because youngsters were already in the queue They have been waiting that as soon as the electoral process starts, then we have to cast our vote. It was so mesmerizing until unless I personally witnessed the rigging. For the first time, I saw the ready-made ballot boxes, which were already filled.
Okay. So you have personally have witnessed it. I mean, I've also been in touch with Salan Goman, who was your candidate. He has spoken about this rigging as well. But you know, what is the solution? I mean, element of fear. How would you take that away from Karachites? I mean, obviously, I can understand that there is no.
Until unless.
I said, obviously, I can understand there's less fear in the NA 250 constituencies. People are more come from more affluent background. But people who live in
Not
those.
Not just NA 250. Even my entire family, I belong to Nazimabad, which is the stronghold of MKM. And my family, my neighbors, everyone I spoke to, they have cast their vote for PTI. But around 2 to 3, they shut all the doors and said that voting has done.
Okay.
That kind of rigging has been done here in Karachi. So May 11 was a day of change. It brought a change in the trend to dream. It brought the change in the lives of millions of youth who thought that they should stand up and write the fate of their country by themselves.
Just last question. Last question. Do you see any hope? Do you see any hope?
Sorry?
Do you see any hope?
Yes, I see the hope. In fact, I have written a blog, Keep the Hope Alive. Okay, and in that blog, I just written that it is the hope which is never lost. Because let us take all the bad with one good. That my city, Karachi, which fulfilled the promise we kept with Chairman Imran Khan, that we would break the idols of fear.
Okay.
There was no leader who asked the citizens to come out, but citizens came out on the street and demanded the repolling from the Teen Talwar defense to North Nazimabad, 5-star Churangi.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Sorry. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for joining us. Breaking the idols of fear. That's narrative she is used. I mean, do you think?
Well, the impression that I'm getting from this conversation is that, well, everybody knows there was a rigging. I mean, I wasn't there, but as you saw on the television and arguments that went on these television screens every day, there was rigging, no doubt about it. But like some pundits say, that probably it was a pre-planned election result. There was an understanding between whoever it was,
the international establishment,
whatever,
what we call it. Okay.
That they have to have pro-Taliban governments, whether it's Imran Khan, who was considered to be pro-Taliban, or it's Nawaz Sharif, who's pro-Taliban. The leftist movements were subdued, and now they want to eliminate them altogether. Okay. And that is the sad part of it. I'm not entirely sure what will happen in the future, but if this trend continues, that kings of Saudi Arabia and all these people were investing hugely into Pakistan, against Iran, basically against Iran. The results are not very good. I mean, the promises, I mean, one is optimistic, no doubt, but on the face of it, it looks rather unfortunately bleak.
Okay. Bilal, coming back to Karachi, breaking the idols of fear, she's used this. Do you think it is possible when someone is ruling? I'm not, again, every party has their own militant wings. So is it possible that next time people will vote and...
Indeed, and I would come back to this first point that I actually made, that it is the criminal and the mafia element that needs to get eliminated. Like Mr. Razarumi actually said as well, that it's the political parties, it is a fight for power. It is a fight that you need to show that how much power you have in Karachi. A political agent actually dies, you have a strike. They don't actually look into it. It's all about the power struggle which is taking place in Karachi at the moment. Nobody is actually thinking of Pakistan. Nobody is thinking about the Karachi. The economic impact that it has, the financial impact one strike has on the people of Karachi and on the financial side, it's unbelievable. It's literally in millions of rupees that we're talking about
here. I've already mentioned that everyone goes from the northern areas to Karachi because it takes the people in.
Indeed.
It's such a generous
it is a metropolitan city.
Yes.
It does attract, but it is a power struggle which we have. Yes, like Mr. Razarumi said, we need to bring all the political parties down onto a table, But unfortunately, what has happened in Karachi is that these political parties have started having affiliation and they've started using the aid of these mafia and these criminal gangs. You need to get rid of them. For that, like Mr. Razarumi said, you can
But
recruit.
I am unable to understand that how would you, when their parties have been sitting together for the last 5 years and 25 years, how would they come and negotiate something?
Frontline, they have been sitting in the parliament, in the assembly, yes, they have been. But at the background, the affiliation with all these criminal and mafia gangs, and then the struggle of, as we have seen, the target killing. What is this target killing? I'm not coming out of it. A general public person doesn't just get up and start sniper killing a political agent. It is a war which is taking place backstage, in the back gardens of the parliament or the assembly. And who is doing that?
Okay.
An M&A ain't doing it, a PM.
But they're obviously these
are the criminal gangs.
And Usman, what is the solution? I mean, we are about to finish the program, and is there any concrete solutions towards the problem of Karachi? I mean, we all understand that one should negotiate, but with whom? Why and on what grounds?
You see, I think you were talking earlier about the element of fear and about how what one can do to overcome that. And I'll give you some examples that will really show how this element of fear is starting to just the ordinary citizen is trying to overcome it themselves. In the post-election scenario, as I said, and every citizen of Karachi can vouch the same effect. There's massive rigging and irregularities in the election, and after the results of NA 250 were delayed and then subsequently repolling was ordered, the citizens or the of Karachi PTI supporters came out on the streets, and there's this for 3 or 4 days non-stop. There was massive crowds to the extent I have never seen such kind of political participation and a willingness to be part of this movement. And there were massive crowds. I'm not talking about Clifton Defense. I'm also talking about Shara Faisal, which is the main artery of Karachi. I'm talking about Mai Kolachi, which is the road leading to the seaport, which is again a very major artery of Karachi. And I'm not talking about just the rich elite crowd of Clifton Defense who came to these protests. You had people, and by the way, just to clarify, you said NA 250 compromise of the affluent areas. It does not. Yes, Clifton and Defense of Karachi are part of NA 250, but you have
area.
You have but you have many slums, quarter colonies, even parts of Sadr are part of NA 250. So anyway, just to clarify that, you had people from all over in all walks of life, different socioeconomic backgrounds, women, lots of students, lots and lots of women, people who have probably never participated in a political protest before. They came out on the streets and protested against rigging. And I'm sure all of you are aware of a very famous telephonic speech that Altaf Sen gave via London, which attracted a lot of controversy, in which he indirectly threatened the protesters. And there was a certain element of fear. In fact, there was a pervading element of fear. I went to one of the protests, and my parents told me not to go. And there was an element of fear that anything can happen, because Karachi is so prone to violence that nobody thinks twice before shooting someone. Anything. But the sense of civic participation and the sense that if now or never. The kind of element
but what
seeping
is
through everyone was amazing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but what was the result?
Yeah,
that's the question. Power to people. Yes,
the results can't be measured in a couple of weeks. NA 250 repolling happened, PTI won, okay, and won by a handsome majority. Okay, the results of this is just the start. You see,
so you believe this is the start. Okay, let's bring it.
No, that is true. 250 and everything. Everybody knows what happened. We've seen what happened after the what's called the Arab Spring in Egypt or Libya, etc.
Yes, indeed.
Chaos. What is the outcome? All that story the gentleman is telling, we know this. Everybody knows there's been rigging and there have been whatever and protests and so on. very elegant friends have been on the streets and everything, but what is the outcome?
So what do you think? What should be done? I mean,
See, we're talking about, same old story again and again and again. What is the outcome? The outcome is not just protest. The outcome is a solution. So what is the solution? That is what we have to find out. And solution does not lie in demonstration alone. There should be a political will and political agenda to solve the problem. And that does not seem to exist at the moment.
So do you see it happening?
Well, it should happen. It has to happen someday. But at the moment, things are so bleak, like I said, because there is a certain agenda that's working in damaging Pakistan. It's not say demolishing, but damaging Pakistan. And that is the factor of Talibanization.
So Talibanization is playing
an important role.
role.
It is the most important factor.
Obviously,
it's happening. You can see it on the face of it, right from Karachi to Peshawar. Everything is Talibanization.
So, your thoughts?
Unfortunately, if you do want to have a civilized solution, it has to be done now. Because Karachi is going towards a point where it is a social breakdown, a complete social breakdown at the moment in Karachi. Eventually what will happen is there is going to be blood everywhere on the streets.
Okay, all right. Just winding up. Usman, 1, 2, 3, 3 solutions. List them, please, 30 seconds.
Well, the first thing I said is, for more coordinated consensus via all political parties. The second thing is immediate disbanding of any armed militant wings of parties, official or unofficial. And the third is very difficult to say, but I guess a greater
third one is the most
representation.
important one, the Talibanization, which is happening.
Yeah, okay, look, that is something that I don't wholeheartedly agree with, but that's another debate in its own.
Yes, that's indeed. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Your
three, if I ask you 3 solutions, what do you think?
First and foremost thing is get rid of corruption. Second, good governance. And third, dialogue.
Okay. Bilal?
Reform of the forces, first of all, eliminating the criminal and the mafia gangs, which is the fear, again. And thirdly, bringing all the political parties onto a table and a dialogue.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And we have discussed Karachi today, the huge problems, and we have tried to come up with some solutions. Obviously, the problems are huge and there are limited solutions, and all solutions lead to only one question, that who will resolve these issues? Someone has to come forward and bring everyone together and on board and present these solutions to everyone. Thank you very much for watching us, and with this prayer, as always, गम हमको न दे सिवाय गमे शब्बीर का गम बांट रहा है तो इधर ते अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मदिन व आले मुहम्मद.